Good morning, Assalamualaikum. Hope you guys are okay. Who are just joining, we were talking before about a little bit about what current situation with online learning and everything. So hang in there. It's worse for us, but you can imagine for first year students, they are really, really challenging right now because, they can't imagine that they will start their university life like this. So anyway, we'll start with lecture 2 today. So it's about type of research. I will try to be as quick as possible because there are some people who highlighted problems with internet quota and everything. So hope if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, I'm here to help you. All right, so for types of research, I know that we've gone through this last week, okay, the definitions of research, but I still just want to highlight about what it means basically. So research, if you look at so means again, anew, or over again, okay? And search is you search for something, you examine things closely and carefully, you try, you test, you probe, okay? So if you combine these two, you can think that, okay, I'm searching for something over and over again, okay? And in that definition, you have to think about how you're doing that. It's a systematic process. So it has its own process, okay? And I highlighted patient over here because while you're doing research, you're definitely going to find some problems, I'm sure even while you're doing task 1 on topics, you were thinking about, what should I talk about? Yeah, okay. For some people, you might already know, okay, definitely I want to do this. Okay, but for others, you might think about, okay, I don't know. And you're going to take time to really look at what's available out there or what's the current problem. Okay, that's how you go about research. Now, this definition, it's a really good definition of research. So it describes careful, systematic, patient study and investigation in some field of knowledge. Okay, so it doesn't matter what field of knowledge you are, if you're doing environmental management or if you're doing environmental science, there are specific research that relates to you. And then, so the research is undertaken to establish facts or principles, okay? Now, research is also structured inquiry that utilizes acceptable scientific methodology, okay? This one I have to highlight as well. So methodology, we will go through this in the next few weeks, not this week. But for now, you guys have to focus on your topic, your research problem, your hypothesis. Okay, those are the things that you really need to be clear about because you need to submit your introduction, okay, like I mentioned last week. Now, okay, we are looking at characteristics of research. So there are basically six characteristics. I'm sorry about the line. My hands are, weird. So to qualify as research, so any study that you do, it must be controlled, okay? Rigorous, systematic, valid and verifiable, empirical and critical. Okay, these are six characteristics that you must have in your research. So you might wonder, why is this important? Okay, so basically, remember the last week I talked about an example where you think, oh, where I want to go for lunch, okay? And you do research on that, okay? You go on Google, you find, what's the best place to have lunch today? So that is one type of research, but is it controlled? Is it systematic? Do you have like a certain methodology you use when you want to find where you want to eat? Maybe not, maybe yes. So to qualify as an academic research, you have to have all these 6 characteristics. Okay, now what does it mean? What is control, what is rigorous? Okay, we go through it one by one. Okay, um, one thing I want to highlight is why is this important? Why is this characteristic important? Okay, especially now because you are focusing on developing your research, yeah. So you're thinking about your topic, you're thinking about the conceptual framework. All of this will help if you know these characteristics. I will explain later. Okay, in control, okay, in real life, there are many factors that affect an outcome, of course. There's not going to be, when something happened, uh, it was not caused by only one factor, okay? But in cause and effect relationship, you must set up your study to minimize the effects of other factors. That's why you have a control study. So imagine if you do an experiment, for example, even back then when you were in secondary school, when you do experiments, you must have, one experiment and another is your control experiment. So that's why you have this control situation, because you want to know if you change one factor, okay, what does the other factors will lead to. You have to define that and you have to minimize that effect. Okay, you might not see it right now, okay, but as you go along while doing research, you're going to realize how important a control experiment is. Now, rigorous. So rigorous, by definition itself, it's almost similar to the redefinition just now. So you must ensure that the procedures are relevant, appropriate, and justified. And it's done rigorously. So you do it again and again. Okay, that's why usually in all types of research, you're going to have your duplicates or triplicates. Even if you're doing surveys, for example, you have a large population, okay, so that you can actually justify that whatever findings that you get is true to the population. It's not just, okay, you just interview someone and you definitely say, okay, from what A is saying, this is the cause of problem B. So that's not possible. So you have to do research rigorously. Okay. Now, systematic. Okay, I've talked about systematic a lot of times already, but you can say that the procedures, it follows a certain logical sequence. So it has its own sequence. Okay, and you cannot just do one before the other. So a very simple example would be while you're doing your research proposal, okay, you cannot start with your conclusion, or you cannot start with your, last option. You will always start with your topic first, okay, because then you know the direction that you're going. The fourth one is valid and verifiable, okay, and this is very important, you guys, because this implies that whatever conclusion that you gave is correct and can be verified. Okay, so like I mentioned before, you cannot just simply conclude that whatever finding is correct. So there must be ways to verify this. Okay, and this will relate to your methodology later on. So empirical. Okay, empirical means you have hard evidence. Okay, so you have hard evidence. That's what I want to highlight. because if you look at any conclusions, any findings, there must be evidence, because then it can support you. Okay, so you cannot just say simply A is caused by B, right? Now, so for empirical, the information is collected from real life experiences or observations. Okay, so when the easiest way to think about this is for real life experiences. Like I mentioned, if you do interviews for your research, okay, if you want to collect your data using interviews or surveys, so it will relate to the real life experiences of your subject, okay? Else, if you're doing experiments, you are going to observe the whatever phenomena that you observe, and you got that as your data, right? Now, the last one is critical. So critical scrutiny of the procedures, right? So again, this is very important. Critical does not only means when you're presenting, people are going to shoot you, ask you questions. That is not the only thing when you're talking about critical. Okay, critical is even when you start off your research, while you're thinking about your topic, you have to be very critical about the selection of the topic itself. Okay, so why is it important? Why would people want to know about this topic? Because when you're doing research, you have to think about what are the importance, okay, and you have to justify that basically. Right. So the process of investigation must be foolproof and free from any drawbacks and able to withstand crucial scrutiny. Okay, that is what I mentioned earlier. So I hope you can think about all these 6 characteristics and apply that to your own research, okay, while you're developing your proposal and later on you're doing your FYP. Because all these things will apply, okay, right to the end of your FYP basically. Because now you're starting with proposal and then you're doing your FYP project itself, okay, whatever that you're going to do. And then you are going to prepare your thesis or your dissertation. So all of this you have to take into account. Right, so we move on to types of research. Okay, so basically there's a lot of different types of research basically. Okay, if you go on Google and you type types of research, there's a lot of different research coming out. Okay, but what I'm sharing with you guys here is the how it was classified. Okay, and you look at the application of the research, you look at the objectives, and you look at the inquiry mode. Okay, so what does that mean basically? So if you look at application, yeah, you do your research based on what it's going to be applied in. So for example, if you're doing pure research or if you're doing applied research, you think about where you will apply the findings. Okay, whereas for objectives, it's basically there is something that you are planning to do. Okay, so objectives of the study, then that will lead on to what type of research that you're going to do. Whereas for the last one, the inquiry mode, so this is basically the methodology. So this is the methodology. So it's either quantitative research or qualitative research. I know that a lot of people are familiar with this one, okay? or even I'm sure your potential supervisor is also going to ask, okay, what type of methodology are you going to use, quantitative or qualitative? Okay, so that is based on the inquiry mode, right? But it's not only that that is there. So there's a lot of other type of research as well. So we'll go through all of this one by one. So, but one thing I have to highlight is this list is not exhaustive, okay? There's a lot of other research available out there, but the purpose of this course is not to ask you to memorize all of this, you know. You have to know, and this will also guide you while you're doing your research, basically. So in the first place, while you're thinking about your plan, your research plan, you have to think about what sort of direction you're going to go. Are you just going to go to explore, or are you just doing pure research? Okay, or are you solving a problem, for example? So that would go to applied research. Okay, are you just going to describe what the phenomena that is descriptive? So there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. Okay, and I don't want to confuse you, so we're going to go through this very briefly. Okay, so we start with pure or fundamental / basic research. Okay, so if you find any of this, so it means basically the same thing. It involves developing and testing theories and hypotheses that are intellectually challenging. Okay, so it may or may not have practical application. Okay, but you basically, if you look at fundamental, for example, you have a theory and you want to either develop it or you want to enhance the theory. Okay, I just highlight that. Okay, and then you have an understanding of theoretical relationship. And if you look at it in another way, okay, it's also concerned with development, examination, verification, and refinement of research methods, procedures, techniques, and tools. Okay, so for example, these are, I choose the example that relates to you guys. Okay, so if you have a new sampling technique, for example, and you want to basically research that, so that falls under pure fundamental basic research. Okay, or for those in social sciences, you know that COVID-19, there's a lot of stress related to it. So suddenly you think about, oh, I think I can suggest a way to measure the stress level. Okay, so that falls under basic research as well, right? Next is applied and action research. Okay, remember just now we talked about the application, right? And before this is basic, now is applied research. So applied research, you use whatever that you're studying is to answer a specific question, okay? Or you want to solve a specific problem, or you want to gain a better understanding, right? So this is usually you try to find an immediate solution, okay, to a problem that is faced in either in society or in organizations, okay? So you can look at the community, for example, what problems are faced by that specific community, and you want to help solve the problem, okay? For example, river pollution, maybe in some remote villages, okay? So you have that community, so you want to solve that river pollution problem. So that falls under applied research, okay? And it falls under you, so you can vary the scope, okay? If you only want to look at that particular community, or you think about, oh, actually this problem is faced by a lot of different communities. So you want to look at 5 different communities, for example. That's also possible. So, but the thing is, it's the application is directly to that society or that organization. So that falls under applied research. Next is, okay, if you look at from before, we covered application, now objectives, okay? So with objectives, it starts with descriptive research. So one easy way to look at this is you look at the keyword. So descriptive, the basic word is describe. Okay, so you want to describe something. So if you look at the definition, there's descriptive study attempts to describe, systematically, it's always there, or provides information about a situation, problem, phenomenon, service, or program. Okay, so basically you describe the characteristics, right? So you attempt to document what is actually occurring, but you have no control, okay? And you simply record what is observed and reported. Okay, and even in descriptive research, you can use statistics, okay, just to get the numbers. So it may be qualitative or quantitative. Okay, so the easiest example I can use for this one is I'm using the same research just now. So you look at river pollution at that remote village. Okay, so with applied research just now, you think about how to solve the problem. But for descriptive research, you're just gonna observe, okay? So you go there and you look at, okay, river pollution is happening. So what are the impacts, okay, to the environment, for example? Or if you're looking at social sciences approach, so you think about how it affects the community, okay? So that's how you go about it. So you just describe, you don't try to solve the problem, okay? So it is also important because, from this research, you find out, oh, actually, there's a lot of problems that correlates with, the river pollution problem. It's not just, pollution, there's other things as well, okay? And you get the numbers to support a claim. So that is descriptive research. Next is correlational research. Okay, so correlation. Yeah, so you have two variables. Okay, you have variable A and you have variable B. So you look at these two variables. Does it have any relationship? Okay, again using the same example. Okay, the river pollution. So you have the first variable, maybe river pollution. Oh, I'm sorry about my handwriting. River pollution as variable A. And then you want to also look at industrialization. Oh my God, sorry guys. So, of course, if you think logically, okay, there must be a relationship there. So if there is river pollution, there must be a reason why, okay? But in research, you're only gonna look at specific factors. Okay, you cannot cover everything. Remember what I said when you do your control just now? Because it's, you want to compare, So, sorry, let me rephrase that. So A and B, in correlational research, you want to know if there is any relationship between these two. Okay, so you cannot just have your own, so there is this term, researcher bias, because right now, right off the bat, you say, definitely, yes, there is a correlation between industrialization and river pollution. Okay, let's just imagine no one has ever done this study before and it is not known, but you cannot generalize that by saying that without any evidence, remember? So how you get the evidence, you do your correlational research. So you measure all the variables, you have your data, and you try and look at the correlation. If there is a correlation, then yes, A and B are connected. If not, then it doesn't mean that it has a relationship. Okay. Next is explanatory or causal research. So explanatory is explain. So you want to explain a phenomenon. Okay. So attempts to clarify why and how there is a relationship between two aspects of a situation and phenomenon. It can be conducted to assess impact of specific changes, okay, on existing norms, processes, etc. Okay, please bear with me. So we also want to identify reasons behind a wide range of processes and assessing the impacts of changes and existing norms, right? So in this case, you want to explain there is a cause to whatever phenomenon that you're studying, okay? So you might be a little bit confused with correlational research if we're still using this example. In explanatory, you will try to explain why there is a relationship between A and B. Whereas in correlational, you just want to prove that yes, there is a relationship, or no, there's no effect or causes between the two at all. Okay, I hope you can understand. So explanatory, so you look at not only the relationship, but you have to explain as well. So for example, you're really interested in that river pollution problem, okay? And you really want to study why this is happening, okay? So it's not only going to be industrialization if we think about the previous example. So you try to find a lot of other problems, okay, that correlates with each other. So that is explanatory. And then exploratory research. So this is explore, okay? So you can always imagine when people say explorer, you always think about people coming to a new area or new, situation. That's why you are saying that you explore. So exploratory research is a study undertaken with the objective of exploring an area where little is known, okay, or to investigate the possibilities of undertaking a particular research study. Okay, let's stop here for now. So exploring an area, so while you're thinking about what topic of research you want to do, okay, suddenly you find out about this one very niche thing, okay, and you're really interested in that. So, but when you try to find some information about it, there's very little published knowledge on that, okay. So that is when exploratory research comes in handy. Okay? Because you want to explore, you want to really start looking into that, right? So another thing that might be more familiar to you is a feasibility study or a pilot study, okay? Because you have little or to no knowledge about the areas and you want to look at if it's feasible or, if it's really something that is worth doing research on. Okay, so you will start with usually feasibility or pilot study. Okay, so not only that, exploratory study are also conducted to develop, refine, and test measurement tools and procedures. Okay, so for example, you found out a new technique, for example, and you want to test that, but no one has ever used that technique before. So that is exploratory, because why it's important is because you have to think about, while you're being critical about it, yeah, when other people are also being critical about it, you know exactly how to justify your research. Okay, because usually this type of research is quite risky in a way that you have no support in the um, no support in terms of knowledge. So no knowledge is very limited. Okay, so you have to really rely on your methods, okay, and your conclusions to your findings might be, people might be very critical about it, but usually exploratory research is one of the most satisfying, because you basically you just do what you want to do, okay, right? Now, that is based on objective, but now it is more towards the approach, okay? So like I mentioned before, we have quantitative and qualitative research, okay? So if you search for it, usually when they say structured research, it also refers to quantitative research, okay? So I know people always say that people in science, they do quantitative research, while people in social sciences, they do qualitative research. But that's not actually true in a way. You know, you can do it interchangeably. People in sciences can do qualitative research, and people in social sciences can do quantitative research. Okay, so don't fix your mind on just looking at this based on what other people say. Okay, so there is no limit to what kind of research you can do. Okay, just as long as you know exactly what you want to do, right? So quantitative research is, so you want to quantify, okay, remember quantitative, quantify the variations in a phenomenon, situation, problem, or issue. Okay. So it might sound a little bit confusing, but what it is simply a measurement of quantity or amount, right? So you can say, if your whatever methodology that you use, the data that you have, if it's in numbers form, then that is quantitative. But otherwise, if it's more about, you know, opinions or the quality of something, right? So the easiest way would be quantitative. You look at a person, okay, the height, the weight, that is quantitative. Okay. And I'm just being very, very general here. That's not research. Usually you don't do research on the age of people, okay? You do research age of people in relation to something, right? But I just want to get across the idea of what quantitative and qualitative means, okay? So qualitative, it is classified if the purpose of the study is to describe a situation, phenomenon, problem, or event. Okay, so you use you measure on nominal or ordinal scale. Okay, so what this means is if you have surveys usually, okay, I'm sure all of you have done surveys at one point in your life, you know, and you have, okay, choose your preference for product A, for example, and you are given, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is you like it very much. 1, you don't like it at all. So that is the scale that you use, right? So, and then the analysis is done to establish the variation in the situation without quantifying it. All right. So that is very important, because if you're talking purely about qualitative research, you don't quantify the response, basically. Okay, but if you do, then you go on to the mixed methods research, okay, where you combine both qualitative and quantitative. Okay, you do, so the easiest way would be, like I mentioned, you using surveys, you got your data, and you don't want to stop there. You want to analyze the data. You want to look at, is there a significance between factor A and factor B? So you look at the quantitative methodology to quantify it, and that is mixed methods research. So that is also possible if you want to do that in your research. Okay. Okay, so why is it important to know what type of research you will be doing? Okay, so you have gone through 8 types just now. There are a lot of other types of research actually, but I didn't want to confuse you guys, okay? And these are usually the 8 most used types of research, okay? So why is it important? So you want to look at the purpose of your study, okay? Are you trying to solve a problem? Are you trying to explore a new field? Or you just want to describe a problem, okay? So you can choose what what is the purpose of your study. Okay, so what I've going through with you guys is the definition and the explanation of each type of research, but you can use that to guide you. So for example, for qualitative research, for quantitative research, there's an actual structured process to go about it. Okay, and we will cover quantitative and qualitative research in a few weeks. All right, so we can look at it in more detail. But yeah, the purpose is important. That's why even I ask my students, my 5P students, why do you want to do this topic? Okay, because you have to really know, okay, the purpose, right? Because then you can justify when people ask you, why is it important to do what you're going to do? Okay, you must be able to answer that. You can't just say, because my supervisor asked for it. You can't do that, guys. Okay, you guys are trained, to go into the workforce afterwards. Okay, and you cannot. And soft skills are really, really important. Okay, so you have to look at your university life as a training for you to go into the workforce. Okay, when you're working, there's a lot of things that you look back towards this time and you think, I should have done this, I should have done that. But try to look at certain problems, certain situations in a positive way. Okay, so I've gone out of topic, but yeah. Next is you look at your data, right? So you know the purpose already, okay? And you're thinking about your methodology. What sort of data you want? Is it numerical? Is it narrative? If it's numerical, then it's quantitative. If it's narrative, then that is qualitative. So you also ask, okay, what is it that you're looking at? Are you doing, so you have your data, do you just want to look at the differences, or you want to try and find the correlation, okay, or you want to find the cause, right? Remember, we have covered this actually before. So you can see the direct link between them, okay? And you decide the research techniques, right? How you want to collect your data, right? Okay. I hope this makes sense. Now, so this is one of the, guides when you are starting out. Okay, so based on your data. So is your data numerical or narrative? If it's numerical, if it's numbers, then probably you want to look at the cause effect relationship, and you go by that, independent variables. Is it manipulated or not? Or are you just looking at the relationship and you find all this? And if you're going at narrative, okay, so usually this is qualitative methodology, okay. Is it a past event? So you either do historical or you're doing something exploratory or something. Okay, so these are just a guide for you to look at that. Okay, so far so good. Are you guys okay?
Okay, doktor.
You okay?
Okay sikit.
All right. Anyway, it's our last slide actually. That's why I asked, because it's a very quick, I hope it's very quick. It's 40 minutes. I didn't realize the time. Okay. But anyway, so this is it for the lecture. But we will have a tutorial class later on this afternoon, 2 p.m. I will share with you guys the link. Okay, but before that, is there any questions? Or everyone is digesting? Okay, I will share the slide, of course, afterwards on both Teams and, Putra Blast. Is anyone having any problem accessing Teams? Or are you guys all okay?
Okay for me.
Okay, everyone else is very quiet. Are you guys still there? Still okay, I hope.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, doktor, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. I mean, if it's a actual class and it's easier, because I was thinking about the tutorials, it's quite hard to do virtually, because I like to, chonteng, I like to write, but my handwriting on that is terrible. Anyway, so thank you for everyone who contributed to Padlet, okay, for task 1. So that is actually quite important. I hope, actually, I'm still looking at the full class. So I hope this will be done this week or next week, because in my database, I have 46 students, but I think only 43 has submitted on Padlet. Okay, and thank you for everyone who commented. I'm sorry, I haven't got the chance yet to comment. I have looked at the, what you guys contributed. Okay, it's very interesting. I would have liked to go through with it later on if we have time. But yes, I will also give response, to the posts, so you can actually get more feedbacks, right? So this afternoon, what we're going to do is more on developing your research problem, okay, and also your hypothesis. Okay, I hope we can do that smoothly this afternoon. So I will share with you the links afterwards. Okay, so if we don't, any questions? So far, so good.
Yes, Doctor.
All right. If you have anything, save it till this afternoon. We will go through. So it's gonna be. I won't use too long because we're also looking at your requirements as well. Okay, but I hope you can all be there this afternoon, and I'll see you later. Okay.